I'm Jen Janicki, and this is my cohort, Lee Gary. Am I pointing the right way? I hope your square's over there. Yeah. Dr. Lee Gary from Jackson, Mississippi, who is the owner of an incredible group of practices called the Winning Smile. And Dr. Lee is up to 5 practices and has some really awesome perspective on some of the hottest topics in dentistry. And, we have had these conversations, over the years and have learned so much from each other that we decided it'd be really good to get you involved in the conversation. And so we've created this series of webinars just to get maybe different perspective, and maybe you have something to provide as well. So we hope to spend the next 30 minutes or so talking about something that I know is a really hot topic. And that is ditching the PPOs. Dr. Lee Gary.
Oh, hey, Jen.
Got anything to say about ditching the PPOs tonight?
I have a lot to say about ditching the PPOs tonight. This is a topic that I'm passionate about. I've experienced. I know it's a hot topic right now, so I am excited to dig into this.
Awesome. So it's been on the cover of major dental journals. You hear it all over social media. You have people who are very impassioned about what the role of dental insurance and the changing role of dental insurance and practices, and how it's impacting dental practices in an area or at a time that inflation hasn't been higher for many of those ever in practice. Like, this is the highest they've ever seen inflation. Share with me a little bit about where you're at in your mindset as it relates to PPO participation, maybe a little bit of history too. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Our PPO participation, we've been involved in this pretty much since I started practice 15 years ago. I signed on with some PPOs right out of dental school, just thinking, I want to see anybody. I don't care what the reimbursement rate is. I need people in the chair.
Butts in seats.
Butts in seats. And I will just mention, if you are a new practice and if you have a lot of downtime, then maybe there is some good strategy around signing up a PPO for sure. But our history over time has been to slowly but surely go out of network with participating with insurance plans. We are down specifically to 2 plans that we are in contract with. And that has been over the last 5 or 6 years. We've had a strategy in place to go out of network with our plans. Will we be completely fee for service one day? Maybe. But right now, it's been something we've done over time.
Yeah, I always like to provide the clarity for doctors that PPO participation is simply a marketing strategy. That's all it is. It's a way to link people to your practice. Yeah. And in the early days, as you mentioned, when you're hungry, you'll eat anything, right? When you're starving, you will eat anything. When you're fat and happy, you're a little choosier. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think the reality is that so many docs are having a challenge with the integrity piece of being able to offer the same level of care for what we're seeing is the trend for reimbursement not to go up, but actually to go down. Yeah. We have one plan that I know of that sent letters. By the way, they sent those letters after open enrollment was already completed for most companies. So they sent those letters at the beginning of February that basically just had a blanket 30% reduction in all fees.
Wow.
So, that has necessitated, I think, practices and practice owners really looking at their numbers going, how the heck am I going to, how can I continue to practice this way? I'm basically paying for people to have their dentistry.
Yeah. And the numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. Yeah.
And can I share some numbers that were eye-opening for myself?
Oh, that would be great.
We decided to start going out of network.
That'd be great.
Numbers that just made sense. Are you familiar with the Kodak study that was done in the 80s? Have you heard that term?
Yes. I was alive during that time. I'm not sure you were.
I was younger, but I was alive. The
Yes,
Kodak
yes, yes.
study, not related to dentistry, but I think it's applicable to dentistry. And ultimately, what it showed was a 5% reduction in revenue led to a 20% reduction in profitability. So easy math. If your practice is, let's say, collecting $1 million a year, let's say the dentist take home is $250,000. If that $1 million got reduced by 5%, the dentist take home pay went from 250 to 200,000. It was a 20% reduction in the profitability of the practice. So throw in a PPO plan of a 30% reduction in fees, you can pretty easily do the math of what that does to the profitability.
100%.
When we ran those calculations, like that was a moment for me a few years ago that it was just a light bulb went off.
Yeah.
You can potentially do less dentistry, go out of network, and actually make more money.
More money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Right?
and by the way, not have to fight claims.
Yeah.
And have them be in between you and your patient relationship and have them deny things. I had an EOB that I saw, it's for real, I'm not even kidding you, that a crown was denied on a broken molar on a 22-year-old patient because it did not have decay.
Wow.
Didn't have decay, so they're not covering it. So now crowns aren't needed on broken teeth.
I've seen the same thing.
Insurance.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing, particularly for crowns not being paid because the crown is needed due to erosion or abrasion. Like we send a picture, there's no enamel on the tooth. And the limitation is this crown is needed due to erosion or abrasion. We're not covering it.
We're not covering it. Are they doing an alternate benefit?
No, there was no alternate benefit. Just denied. I mean, strict limitation based on their plan.
Yeah.
Denied.
Yeah. So the struggle's real.
Yeah.
So we're going to assume that anybody who is watching tonight has one goal probably, and that is how. Ditching the PPOs, how. So we're going to talk about some best practices in doing that. And I think the number one piece is knowing your numbers. Do you agree with that?
100%. And there are some easy numbers that we would run to help us strategically walk through this process.
Yeah, let's talk about those.
Well, first off, we had to know how many plans are we actually in participation.
Were you surprised by how many?
Yes, I'll admit it. You know, years ago, if you were to ask me how many plans was I in network with, I couldn't give you the exact number. So I had to get that number first.
Sure.
Using our practice software, we started to dig in a little bit more. Easy numbers. How many new patients were we seeing from each plan?
Cool.
Were we seeing 20 new patients a month from a particular plan? And this is over a 12-month period.
Because it is a marketing. It is a market. It is your marketing. Like, and we just get really clear about that. It's marketing.
Yeah. Was I seeing one new patient a month on a plan? Was I seeing 20 new patients on a plan?
Sure.
That helped us realize what did the future look like for that particular plan. If you're seeing 20 new patients a month off a particular plan, well, then a year, 2 years, 3 years goes by, you're going to have a lot of people on that plan. And so that helped. We ran metrics on how much production came from each plan. How much dentistry were we doing on each plan? You may have a plan where 70% of your production is coming from patients on that plan. You may have a plan where it's a very, very small percentage. Right. You just need to you need to know those numbers. Yep. And then last but not least, what was the average write-off on each plan?
Do you do that? Do you do that in dollars or do you do that as a percentage?
We did it as a percentage based off of what our normal fees are compared to what the contracted fees are. And we took our top 20 codes. We didn't go through the whole code list. We took our top 20 codes, pro fees, crowns, restorative,
exams,
radiograph, exams. How much are we actually writing off? Some plans, 10%, 15%, some plans 30, 40% on some procedures. I think those are really easy metrics to run from your practice software. They help you make decisions.
They do. They help you make decisions. And I'll hear things like, oh, well, their reimbursement isn't bad, or they have better reimbursement than others, but that isn't empirical data.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. You saw one EOB one time mostly your insurance coordinator or your financial person in your practice are going to tell you what plans you need to get out of based on the one metric of how much do they pay and are they a pain in the rear? Like if they're, denying a lot of claims, or if they're slow paying and losing claims, if they're, they've got someone who's asleep at the wheel reviewing claims, like they generally know who the hardest ones to work with are.
Yeah. And they're not all the same. You're exactly right. They're not all the same to work with. And your insurance coordinator, they can give you that information. Yeah. So you got to know your numbers. At the end of the day, you got to know your numbers, and those are easy numbers to find out.
Yeah, you have to know your numbers, and being able to utilize, the rule that you shared with the Codex study is the same with your looking at your production per plan, because we've done some math. I've dug into some math where we had a plan that was 30% of the practice's production, and it was like a $2.3 million practice. It was 30% came from one plan that will not be mentioned. But when we actually went through and said, okay, let's eliminate 100% of that production, which you're not going to lose everyone.
Not going to happen. Yeah, not going to happen.
Not going to happen. And we replace 30% with fee for service.
Yeah.
30%. What does that look like? And the rule stayed in place. Yeah. So we really look at, all right, now I know my numbers, and now I have to go through the hypotheticals of, if I'm dropping a plan, what am I going to do to replace the patients that I potentially lost? Yeah. And how can I keep as many patients in my practice, even with not being in contract? How do I do that? Yeah. We've seen practices that have been so contracted, and as a strategy, we've dropped insurance plan because they just don't have enough available hours to care for patients. And we've dropped it. And guess what? Nobody left.
Nobody.
Because they did it so well. Like, nobody left. And they were like, Jen, you promised that, if I did this the right way, that, approximately 30% of these patients are going to leave, and they might come back when we're ready, but right. And so if you do it really, really well, and patients trust you.
And there's definitely some specific strategies around doing it.
You have to do it.
And that's been our experience. That's been our experience too.
Yeah. Universally, I would say the most important piece is letting your patients know how to do that, like how to let your patients know. Tell me a little bit. You've gone through this a few times now, since you're down to 2 plans. What did you find to be the best way of informing patients about this impending change?
Even before that, can I tell you a roadblock that we came across initially? Yeah. And that was mindset around insurance plans with our team members.
Oh, really?
I think you can have some team members. This has been our experience.
Oh,
team members can have the same mindset around insurance plans as patients do. And there's a fear. There's fear from the doctors, but there's also fear from the team members. How, when Mrs. Jones, when she calls and says she now owes $10 because she came in for a prophy that she's never had to pay before.
Where's my free cleaning?
Yeah. How am I going to address that? Like, there's a real fear. So what we found was we had to address the fear with our team members first. Right. So then it was, okay, how do we address concern with our patients? Inevitably, when we have gone out of network, what we have found is the insurance companies will send a letter to the patients. When you go out of network, we have had our insurance companies notify the patients. And we've seen the letters, and they basically stop short of telling the patients, you're going to go to jail if you go
You're going to go to jail if you don't find a new dentist.
If you don't find a new dentist, you're going to prison.
Going to prison.
Which we know is not true.
Yeah.
So our strategy around that was we sent a letter first. Before we actually notified the insurance company, we sent a simple letter to our patients that just let them know we were now wanting to be we called it an unrestricted provider. Mrs. Jones, we want to be an unrestricted provider. We can still see you here.
Yeah.
We still can do your dentistry here. So that was our strategy first, was to send a letter out to the patients first. Secondly, what we focused on, and I'm glad we did, we worked on our verbiage of how do we address the concerns. Because inevitably, even when we sent our letter out, we got phone calls asking questions. What does this mean?
Yep.
So we were prepared for the questions that we knew we were going to get.
Sure.
You got to work on your verbiage and you got to practice that and feel comfortable with it.
Oh, that's gold right there is the team mindset. I think for, a lot of providers now, it's having those really good conversations and nobody shying away from it. If you have 6 months before you have to drop a plan, start the conversation now. Start planting seeds with all of your patients about how restrictive insurance reimbursement is becoming and how you just will not, as a measure of integrity, let a third party come between you two. Not in your recommendations. You're not going to let insurance dictate care. Patients get it. And when you start those conversations from hygiene, clinical assistant, the doctors even being super comfortable and unapologetic about a decision to take great care of their patients, I think is also key. So if you have 6 months, the need conversations, even before the letter, can prepare your patients so that you have an experience like, many of our clients where they didn't lose enough of their patients, which would be the key. I also had a practice so funny. They used it as an opportunity to dismiss patients. They didn't want to see anymore.
I love it. Oh,
so they just sent them a letter that said, we've opted to no longer be a part of your insurance plan. You may want to check with your insurance provider about how to select a new dentist. I'm like, genius.
I love it.
But the reality is that if you've created great relationships with patients, they're logical, they understand it. And we've done long-term studies on case studies on practices that we've helped come out of insurance and what they had to do to replace those patients. And the most interesting thing is that even with the loss and the attrition from coming out of insurance, and I'm sure you've seen this, patients come back.
Yes.
They may go find a different provider that accepts their plan, but you have created a standard of care that's really hard for them to step away from.
Yes.
And they're like, oh yeah, my pro fee's $30 a year more. It's worth it for the great conversation, for the awesome environment, for having trust in their dentist. That goes a long way.
It's so valuable. And I know there was a lot of fear in the beginning when we did it, how many patients might leave the practice. And that was not the reality. That we just, we ran scenarios just like you talked about. What if we lose 50% of that production or 100% or, 20% of that production? What happens? And none of those scenarios actually worked out. And it helped that we actually had a specific strategy going into it. But overcoming that fear initially was key for us. And I'm sure that would be true for a lot of practices who are thinking about this.
Sure. And we not in all areas, not in all markets. And that's why we can't speak, directly to, should I get rid of Cigna? I'm in Kansas City. We can't speak directly to that in this forum. It does require analysis. It requires somebody who has the background to do that. And there are lots of resources for docs out there too, if they want to renegotiate. There are some companies that are playing ball because they have seen an exodus of and they don't have a provider in an area. And guess what? That's illegal. You can't offer a plan where there are no providers who will see that you can't offer the plan. So we have seen that contract negotiation has been pretty successful. Will it stay successful? Will they start creating more exclusions and limitations? And yes, the answer is yes. Even if you negotiate, your insurance coordinator is still going to be in tears from some of their antics. So I think from that standpoint, making sure that you recognize that that's a short-term fix to a long-term problem. But I think of, Unlock the PPO has been great to work with. You've worked with, who did you say, Veritas?
Yes, we worked with Veritas.
Yep, Veritas.
We've worked with Unlock the PPO.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
and they have waiting lists. Did you know that?
oh, wow. I did not know that, but I'm not
Yeah,
surprised.
we have, well, Rich, one of our other instructors, he was on a 6 month waiting list, and
Wow.
they just now are doing the analysis of what can happen. So, you can really see, from that standpoint.
And I
Uh,
think that is money well spent. I am
yep,
an advocate of hiring someone professional to help you run this analysis,
yep,
especially if you're interested in renegotiating your contracts. One
yep.
of the plans that we're still involved with, the reason that we're still involved with them is because they did negotiate with us.
They played
And
ball.
they played ball, and we were able to see an increase in our fees. And so
Hey,
we stayed with that plan. So I definitely think it's money well spent, but I definitely think it's worth hiring a professional to
yeah,
do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Not only so that you can prepare for what the scenarios could be and have a strategy accordingly,
Yeah.
but also know how to do it with the least amount of damage.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's to patient relationships. You've worked long and hard, to create those connections. And the last thing we want to do is make a business decision that also hurts your heart.
Well, something that really helped us, gave us a lot of confidence, especially helped us overcome the fear. The plan where we saw the fewest number of patients on, the lowest production, that was the first one we dropped. So we were seeing one or
Easy.
two, yeah, easy, one or two new
Low
patients
hanging
a
fruit
month,
right there.
low hanging fruit. Our production was really small on that plan.
Yeah.
That was an easy one for our team to realize that the sky was not going to fall if
Yeah.
Mrs. Jones now owes $15 when she comes in for her cleaning.
Yep. I love that.
That was a great, easy, low hanging fruit. It's a great one to start with.
That's great. Well, I knew we would have some questions on this
Yeah.
one, so I'm gonna field a few of these. You say PPO acceptance contracts is marketing. When do I need to replace this marketing to keep my schedule from falling apart when I stop accepting PPOs?
Oh gosh. The first thing I want to address is the schedule falling apart. This mindset that busyness is so important,
Oh boy.
right? Like we could talk about that. Like, oh my gosh, I'm
Whole
not
nother
busy.
topic.
Yeah, I'm not busy. Something's wrong. Get out of the mindset of just busyness and start looking at this from a profitability standpoint, regardless of how busy you are. But if you're not marketing already, I would think maybe most practices maybe are doing some marketing already. But if you're not marketing
Oh,
already,
the only, most
maybe
practices don't do
okay,
marketing,
okay,
not strategically.
not strategically.
No.
Give yourself 3-4 months of some good marketing.
Yeah.
And I know we could do a webinar on marketing. How do I market? So I'll try not to go down that rabbit hole. Give yourself
Yeah.
3-4 months of marketing
Yeah.
to see if you can start bringing in some new patients not related to insurance.
Yeah. And I think that piece of planning for, attrition
Yeah.
and how many new patients do you need? A lot of docs are surprised to know that they don't need as many new patients as they think.
Yeah.
Many docs are surprised by the fact that they're processing a lot of new patients that don't do dentistry with them.
Yeah.
Like they come in, do a new patient exam, get their cleaning, do another cleaning, delay treatment. And so when we have a more focused and intentional examination, and when we're able to offer, patients comprehensive care, that in itself is doing more dentistry on fewer patients can keep you're going to think you're twiddling your thumbs because you're not running around like a crazy person seeing emergencies all the time.
Trying to do limited exams.
Yeah. So when you need to start marketing is the moment you decide that you are leaving participation. That's the moment.
That's great advice. Yeah,
I
think that's
great.
great.
And we have, a ton of resources as it relates to that. So please don't hesitate to ask. We can set you up with a free consult with a marketing strategist who really understands the side of the business and isn't going to push you to spend money that you don't have or to market for patients you aren't going to lose, which, oftentimes we find you just don't need as many new patients when you're running on all cylinders. Yeah. Are in-office membership plans something we should start now that we're out of network? Ooh, I love in-office plans. They're so great.
I don't know if you and I have ever had discussions around in-office plans.
I
So
don't think we have either.
yeah,
Do you want to know what I think?
I would love to know what you think.
I love them.
Awesome. Me too.
From this, they have to be done well. They have to be presented well. They have to be clear with your patients. They have to, just automatically reducing a payment on any service, I think can generate the wrong impression. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we're utilizing this as a loyalty tool and it's not insurance, but a replacement for someone who opts out, oftentimes you can, and if you have some insider information, this is where I found it's the easiest to show a patient. If you know what patients are paying for a specific plan, if it's not 100% funded by their company, you can do the math. And oftentimes an in-house plan will be less expensive than their contribution per check. And there's no limitations, and there's no waiting periods, and there's no, it is what it is. Like the clarity it provides patients who especially have had alternate benefits or a crown not covered, or they've had that unfortunate experience. Those are low-hanging fruit for an in-house savings plan that helps them understand where they are. Did I convince you?
Yes. I didn't need convincing, but yes, you convinced me. I'm ready.
Do you have a plan?
We do.
We've
had one for a few years now. So I definitely think it's a great strategy.
Yeah.
What I've learned through going through the experience, just because you have a plan, don't expect it to just take off.
It's not going to sell itself.
It's not going to sell itself. If you are not intentional about having conversations with patients, promoting, I mean, that is a marketing strategy.
It is a marketing strategy.
In of itself.
Yeah.
And we found that just because we had one didn't mean that we were just burning the house down, signing all these people up. So we had to get really focused and intentional about promoting it.
Yep.
And it makes sense for all the reasons that you're not dealing with insurance companies and claims and the math for the patients.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's interesting. I have insurance coordinators or, finance people on business team who are like, well, what am I going to do if we're not in insurance? It's like, you're going to sell in-house plans all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Certainly it doesn't limit, very few practices are truly fee for service, which means they're not accepting assignment. They're sending a claim with the patient and saying good luck. Like that's pretty low. It's really a hybrid of, those practices that will still accept assignment, that sort of thing. I'm going down a bunny hole. I don't know why I'm doing that.
That's okay. What is the statistics I've heard before of people with dental insurance? Something like in the 30-something% of people have dental insurance.
I would be really smart to know that. I don't know that.
Well, what about the other 65% of people who don't have dental insurance? Would a plan be something that motivates them to come to your practice?
Yes, 100%. And I look at things like people who have an insurance mindset. The mindset is, well, I get 2 free cleanings.
Yeah.
Those cleanings aren't free. They're paying for it they're just paying for it as a deduction of their check. So when we're able to show them the math behind it, they generally are pretty positive about it. People who have never had insurance, an in-house plan is like, wow, this is like discount savings. They got a coupon. Like they're so excited.
I get a discount. When do we start?
Like, my really savvy teams are using it as a way to get treatment acceptance.
Yeah.
And people go, wait, why would I take my fee for service and give them a discount? Guys, you control your fees. You control your fees. So, for instance, if you're doing a fee increase, then you have to, you want to look at what can you afford to give, but you control the fees where on an insurance contract, you do not.
Yeah.
So that helps the psychology, I think, of an in-house plan. I think we have time for one more.
Okay.
What reasons this is a good one. You're going to love this. What reason do I give my patients as to why I'm not in network anymore?
It just doesn't match with my philosophy of care, my standard of care. I just can't provide the standard of care that I'm used to providing with fees. And we use the term unrestricted provider.
Yeah.
And I think that helps soften the blow a little bit.
I do too. I think, the reality of being transparent with your patients about what the trend is in dental insurance, what the myths are in dental insurance, being transparent. I've even had practices that we've recommended, they'll send the letter that they're going to get from their insurance company ahead of time to say, this is a letter that, and this is what it's going to tell you. You're going to jail if you don't pick another provider. And here's the truth behind that. And it's these practices, they understand that, they're in some cases on the medical side, on the car side, they're frustrated with insurance as much as we are. They're frustrated with the concept of insurance where they think they pay for something that they're getting that they're not getting. So if they trust you, they trust your view on insurance. And oftentimes we'll hear if they're doing it right, and teams are having these need conversations with patients, they'll go, I knew it was coming. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I guess I got to look at my other options come open enrollment, and get your plan in place. Start talking about this before open enrollment. You know who your big plans are. You know when their open enrollment is. So you do not wait until the first of the year. If you know open enrollment is October, you better be doing that stuff right now.
That is a great strategy. Absolutely.
Yeah, right now. So I think the reasons behind it are really clear. And don't be afraid to say the landscape of dental insurance is changing. And it doesn't allow me to provide the care that you've become accustomed to. And it's an integrity piece for me that I want to give you my best. So, here's what we make sure is that we're never just going to let any third party, doesn't matter who they are, but we're definitely not going to let dental insurance dictate care and come between me and you.
And make sure your team members can have that same conversation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're going to get the phone
team
call.
meetings, lots of trainings before you even start down this road. If you want to lose a lot of patients, don't talk to your team about how to answer questions. Don't get them prepared for mindset. Send a letter, send an email. And that's a great way to constrict your practice because, your patients will not feel cared for. If you want to save, the patients that you want to save, then that strategy is all part of it for sure. Yeah. Again.
Can't be over with already.
It is. It's over with already. And I have a feeling, I have a deep feeling that we are going to visit this topic again.
Absolutely.
As it relates to, potentially if you're in network and you're not in a spot that you can get out, what are some other strategies that you can employ while you're working on an exit plan?
Oh, I can't wait to talk about that. Oh, I can't wait.
I'm excited too. Hey, it was great visiting with you again.
Thank you, Jen. You as well.
Forward to the next time.
All righty.
All right. Have a great night.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.